Daniel Carter sat alone in a small apartment, staring at the $2 bill on the kitchen table. It was all he had left until payday. His daughter Lily was asleep in the next room. Daniel had spent the last 8 years raising her as a single father after his divorce. His ex-wife, Vanessa, had never respected him. She had always believed Daniel was a failure because he didn't drive an expensive car or wear designer clothes. That morning, she had called him about Lily's school expenses. "You're useless," Vanessa snapped. Daniel remained calm. "I'll pay what I can." "What can you pay? You're always broke." "I'll figure it out." She laughed bitterly. "You're useless trash, Daniel. I don't know how I ever married you." Then she hung up. Daniel stared at his phone. Lily walked into the kitchen. "Dad?" Daniel quickly smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." She looked at the table. "What's that?" $2. "For what?" Daniel picked it up. "That's what we have until Friday." Lily hugged him. "We'll be okay." Daniel smiled. Always. Neither of them knew that everything was about to change. That afternoon, Daniel received a phone call from an unfamiliar attorney. "Mr. Carter?" "Yes." "My name is Thomas Reed. I represent the Carter Family Trust." Daniel frowned. "My family doesn't have a trust." Thomas paused. "That's why I need to meet you." The next morning, Daniel arrived at a law office wearing his only decent suit. Thomas was waiting with several attorneys. "Mr. Carter, please sit." Daniel looked nervous. "What is this about?" Thomas opened a thick file. "Your grandfather passed away recently." Daniel froze. "My grandfather?" "Yes." "I thought he died years ago." Thomas shook his head. "That was your grandmother's brother. Your grandfather's identity was kept private for security reasons." Daniel stared at him. Thomas continued. "Your grandfather built one of the largest private investment organizations in the world." Daniel laughed nervously. "I'm sorry, what does that have to do with me?" Thomas slid a document across the table. "You are his only surviving direct heir." Daniel stared at the document. The number at the top made his hands shake. 200,000. Daniel looked up. "That's impossible." Thomas nodded. "I understand why you think that. This says $200 billion. "Yes." Daniel leaned back. "I don't want this." Thomas smiled. "You don't have to accept everything immediately." Daniel looked at the papers. "What happens if I refuse?" "The assets remain in the trust." Daniel thought about Lily. Then he remembered the $2 on his kitchen table. He quietly signed the first document. But he didn't tell Vanessa. He didn't tell his neighbors. He didn't even tell Lily. Instead, Daniel spent several weeks meeting with financial advisors and learning about the empire he had inherited. He discovered that his grandfather owned investment companies, real estate, technology firms, manufacturing interests, and major stakes in dozens of businesses. But Daniel didn't become obsessed with luxury. His first decision was simple. He created a foundation to help struggling families. His second decision was even more personal. He bought a comfortable home where Lily could grow up safely. Then Vanessa found out. She arrived at Daniel's new office without an appointment. "You're hiding something from me." Daniel looked up. "What?" "I heard you're rich." Daniel sighed. "Who told you?" "It doesn't matter." She walked around the office. "You inherited money?" "Yes." "How much?" Daniel didn't answer. Vanessa smiled. "I knew you weren't completely useless." Daniel looked at her. "That isn't why you're here." She became defensive. "I was your wife, and now you're not. You have a responsibility to Lily." "I know." "Then you should give me some money." Daniel shook his head. "No." Vanessa's face changed. "You owe me." "I don't." She laughed. "You were nothing before me." Daniel remained calm. "I was Lily's father before you left." Vanessa became furious. "You think you're better than me now?" "No." He stood. "I think we're finally living separate lives." She stared at him. "You're really going to refuse me?" "Yes." Vanessa left angrily. Months later, Daniel received another surprise. His grandfather's trust had included one final instruction. Thomas handed him a letter. Daniel opened it. The message was short. "Money reveals character. Don't let wealth change yours. Remember the people who loved you when you had nothing. Daniel read it twice. Then he smiled. That evening, Lily came running into his office. Dad! Daniel hugged her. I missed you. She smiled. Are we still having dinner together? Always. They sat together at home. Lily looked around their new house. Dad, are we rich now? Daniel laughed. Apparently. Are you going to become different? Daniel thought about Vanessa's words. Useless trash? He remembered the $2. Then he looked at his daughter. No. Why? Because money can change what you have. He smiled. But it shouldn't change who you are. Lily nodded. Good. Daniel kissed her forehead. He had inherited $200 billion, but the most valuable thing in his life wasn't sitting in a bank account. It was sitting across the dinner table, smiling at him. And from that day forward, Daniel used his fortune to build schools, support single-parent families, fund scholarships, and help people who were struggling just as he once had. Years later, Vanessa heard about everything he had accomplished. She regretted every cruel word she had spoken. But Daniel never celebrated her regret. He simply continued living, because he had finally understood something his grandfather wanted him to know. A person who has $2 but keeps their